auction as the world's unmade, and call it all our golden age. Ooh, we are beyond control. Ooh, no vision can deliver us. We're golden calves until we're dust. Ooh, we're born upon a throne. Ooh, don't you know? Ain't nobody safe from us. All you ghosts are better off where you come from. And I set out to tame the land with lion teeth and jaws of lambs. Ooh, I'm drunk on the control. Ooh, until the fiction wastes away, until there's nothing left uncaged. Ooh, and I'm on my own. Don't you know? Ain't nobody safe from us. All you ghosts are better off where you come from.
Hey, we are back in our usual slot. Up day on 420. And why are we here again? Hey, Microwave, how's it going?
Hey, weather's good. Things are good. Things are
Yeah.
freezing here. Things are freezing.
It's
But we've got our
freezing.
coffee.
Yep.
And the God Emperor is on the throne once again, and it's been
Yes,
a crazy week already.
It's day 2. Day 2, living in a Trump world, which is the
Yes.
title of this show, of episode 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5.
And if you're wondering where 3 is, well, 3 is now safely back in YouTube, whereas on Monday they actually canned the show. Luckily, we use StreamYards, and we record the show, and I was able to re-upload it just last night. But I hear, though, several podcasters I even follow, they had trouble actually doing a live watch party of the show, and their podcast got canned, or streams got canned, and some of them did manage to get back on, but they had to desperately rush in, set up the StreamYards, and cast a new show, because they got the big black ugly sign from YouTube saying that, well, you seem to be infringing on some copyright issues, and of course, no indication of what, where, when, how to fix. You know, they always give you the big notification, and you're supposed to figure out what in the hell they want us to fix. But this time around, it seems like, we were mysteriously, I went up last night. I saw some people, I saw podcaster Kirsha. I was flipping through YouTube, and I saw she actually had pretty much what we had. We had, the banners up. She has a VTuber character right in the corner,
Yeah.
no cameras, and she got canned. Well, she got canned the first time, and then finally, like, her final attempt worked, and then she was able to cast for like 7 hours after, no issues.
I have a
And she had
theory.
managed to catch the main event and all that stuff. So that's our story. And what was your theory? Sorry.
Oh, my theory is what they did was they put all of our broadcasts on a plane. Like, they just put all our broadcasts in a plane, and they sent the plane to New Zealand, and it flew all the way to New Zealand, boop, landed.
Mhm.
They waited, and they flew all the broadcasts back, and there we're back. That's my theory. Just kidding.
Well,
but
we are back. We got our show up. So if you wanted to if you were watching on YouTube and all of a sudden our show got cut off, you can actually go back on our channel on YouTube, on our playlist for the Common Nonsense podcast, and you can find episode 3. We planned this episode 3.5 just to kind of like cover the gap in case I wasn't able to upload the episode. But even after all this, I mean, after even 2 days, we still have quite a bit to talk about, even after the inauguration.
We
Don't we?
do. Things are
It's
moving
been
forward.
it's been an exciting 2 days, just 2 days.
Has it ever?
You know,
Whether I remember, I'm not sure if it was last podcast or if it was our first one. We were like, well, he can't just. We were like, he can't just like do all these executive orders right away, but he did. I mean,
he
his
did
first day, like it's
3
not even
sessions. As far as I know, I've watched 3 separate sessions. He did one, but he did one before the. He did one at his after inauguration at Capital One Arena, right? Because he went to Capital One Arena, did another speech, and then all of a sudden they pulled up a table, and they had this dude, this red-haired dude, came with a stack of like, folder type things with some paper on it, and apparently those are the executive orders,
Yeah.
and he just literally would announce them, pass them on to Donald Trump, and he would take his Sharpie and just did his John Hancock on with the Sharpie, and boom,
that was
and
amazing.
boom, and boom. It was just all boom, 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 and it was like, holy crap! It's like he ain't kidding, and all that. So, well, but before we get into that, of course, we've got a few. I don't know. I guess we can go through some highlights of our things we picked up, things we wanted to talk about. What do we have here? This was Alex Jones. Alex Jones talking about Barron Trump, I believe. He actually, let me play it.
Yeah, this is
the 47th president of the United States, Donald Trump, getting inaugurated.
Then I have a very tall son named Barron. Has anyone ever heard of him?
Here he is. Son of the God Emperor himself.
Yeah. And he does his ear thing. Right
Smiling
here.
on top of that. Oh yeah.
Woo.
Oh yeah. That's actually the first time I've seen him do that.
Yeah. And the crowd was going crazy. They're like, woo! It's right there. Like it was roaring in the arena.
He
Thank you.
well, you can hear from the man himself.
He knew the youth vote. We won the youth vote by 36 points. And he was saying, Dad, you got to go out and do this one and that one. And we did a lot of them. And he respects them all. He understood them very well. And he said, Dad, you got to go out, do Joe Rogan, do all these guys. And we did. We did. And Joe Rogan was great. They were all great, right, Aaron? They were all good.
It is the battle for the Republic.
Yep.
That was great. That was really
awesome.
great. And that's a key point in this election, right? Bypassing the legacy mainstream press, bypassing them and going to these other outlets that are more receptive and more right of center views, the podcast circuit, Twitter/X, and he got the input from Barron. And I think this is a key point to make because it also characterized his first presidential run where Trump using, very little money relative to Hillary's campaign and using the alternative media, especially Twitter at that time. And people were astounded that to what extent the right of center people across the spectrum of the right dominated the Twitter space, dominated the internet. And I think that's one of the key reasons for Trump's initial electoral victory in 2016 and this one here, right? Like in 2024, like bypassing the gatekeepers, doing an end around them, and leveraging the youth vote, key. Like we can't really overemphasize that point. I don't think.
I think especially of late, the power that the legacy media has over us is evaporating.
It is.
And by legacy media, I'm talking about TV, NBC, ABC, CBS, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
These
Exactly.
people who think that they have the pulse of the people are so disconnected from what real people really want to think about. And
Exactly.
these past few years, I kind of felt that, you know, they thought they could easily like just say what they want on the TV and people would just take it, you know.
And exactly, and I think normal everyday people are starting to and have emerged from that really restricted discourse that we were subjected to. I don't think we knew at that time how badly we were being controlled. And now I'm not saying it's a perfect world, but because um, but the power, that's why these people want to censor the internet, they want to curb speech, they want to put all these controls on individual citizens because they couldn't keep control of the message because of the internet, because of the web. So
Well, I
um
mean, it's the thing that I find the internet has brought us is the ability to choose what we want to watch. I mean,
yeah,
we were no longer passively sitting in front of the TV and taking whatever they gave us. I mean, they set the schedule. If we wanted to watch Knight Rider, we had to be up on the Friday or Sunday. I forgot what day Knight Rider was on, but you know what I mean. You know,
I don't know what you're
uh,
saying, Michael.
and you know, certain days
Yeah.
well, actually, if you're into Dukes of Hazzards, that was Friday. I think
Oh
Knight
yeah.
Rider was actually on. Was it the Sunday? I believe it was on Sunday.
I
Anyways,
just remember that I
you
loved those
didn't. You
two
never
shows.
watched that stuff,
I
right? You never
did.
watched.
I
Did you?
loved Dukes of Hazzard. I loved Knight Rider, and I loved Airwolf and Chips and like all those shows.
Oh, Chips was awesome. I mean, back when California was cool and everything, you
Yeah,
know,
and they had the
and Eric
cool like
Estrada, you
yeah,
know.
and they had the cool like synth wave kind of intro from that period in the 70s, I guess. You know, like yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, you know, but yeah, but
but
yeah, let's talk about the last 2 days, and I think one
oh,
of the things we wanted to go over is
oh yeah.
this one.
Mike, did you see that clip of Barron when he passed by Joe Biden, he
Oh,
leaned
oh
down
yeah. Hang on.
and he
Yeah,
said
yeah.
something, and
Do you actually have a link to that?
I posted it at some
Yeah.
point, but I
Is it
can't
on
remember.
is it on the
I
list
think
list?
it's in the show notes somewhere. But it was a Twitter clip.
Oh yeah, and it was
Sorry, I should have had that
no,
ready.
no, it's fine, it's fine. I mean, this was supposed to be a recap show, and we weren't really too serious about keeping notes and
But
stuff. Let me just dig it up. Hang on. Let's just do this live.
I just mentioned that because seeing their photo there with Barron and Melania, and then that incident um, in the rotunda in the Capitol
Oh
building,
yeah, yeah. A
it's
lot of
just
people have been talking about that actually.
yeah, and we were all speculating like, what did he say? You know, and it was amazing.
This one?
Yep, it's got to be that one because he's so tall. Like he had to kind of bend down a bit.
Oh yeah, there it is. Oh, they don't actually show the actual footage. I wish they did because it was pretty. What's with the music? Anyways,
Oh, it's okay. We'll find it
but
eventually.
no,
But
it's fine. I mean, yeah, and I did see that, and basically he walks up to Biden and shakes his hand, and then leans over and says something,
yeah, and then you
and
could
people are
see
speculating, and then his face
his face
basically
just drains
drops.
like,
Yeah.
and it, and I was just speculating. He probably said something, you know, I'll never forget, or you're an a-hole, whatever it was. But
No,
it
well,
was great. It was great.
this a lot of people suspect he basically said something along the lines of "You're done."
Yeah, pack your bags. Exactly. You know, because of what the Bidens put Melania through, Barron through,
Yeah.
the whole family, and Donald Trump himself. Like the most sustained campaign of organized hatred and lawfare that we've never seen ever on the
It
planet.
should never ever exist in a country that claims to be about freedom.
Exactly. Like,
Great. And well,
let
what was
alone
I
the
gonna-
assassination attempts.
no, well,
Jesus.
I mean, pretty obvious and stuff. And I had no idea that Melania was Slovenian.
She is, yeah.
Because like I think for some odd reason I thought she was from like South America somewhere. She just looked
Okay.
that exotic to me and stuff. And I only heard today she was Slovenian. And I've actually been to Slovenia.
Oh, that's
I was there.
cool.
I've been there on business, and it was like a long time ago when I was working in nuclear power plants.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, I was working on simulation and stuff, and I went on a business trip to Slovenia. Beautiful country.
Yeah.
Very beautiful country. A lot of very interesting people. I have to admit. Not the warmest in the world. I'll put it out there, but beautiful country. And I think the one thing I have to say about most of the Slovenians I've met, very professional, but kind of cold.
Okay. Yeah.
Is my impression, but but very professional. Working with them was always, you knew what you were expecting off the bat. That's my experience with them. Other than that, I don't really know too much, other than they used to be part of Yugoslavia or something like that, right?
Sounds good. Because
Sounds
like
good?
I've never been. I know, like I only knew that she was Slovenian, and I've seen like some like still photos of her home village, and it looked really, pastoral and idyllic. And
Yeah, pastoral.
awesome.
Yeah, they have a lot of beautiful forest and yeah. Was that? I think I was staying at what they call therapeutic hotel,
Oh yeah,
and
sort of like
right.
spa?
Yeah, because we were 4 hours from a bunch of places when we were in Slovenia, and I think at that point I was with a coworker, and I wanted to actually. I mean, we had the opportunity to go see Venice in Italy, and where's the Sound of Music take place? Strasbourg.
Austria.
It's in it's
Is it
Austria, but it is Austria.
No,
but,
it's Switzerland. Damn it.
No. It's Austria. They were Austrian. They were,
Okay.
remember the Third Reich and everything. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
yes, it was in Austria, but it was I can't remember the city, but it's where the Sound of Music takes place. Strasbourg.
Sounds good. No, sounds good. You don't have to
Sounds good?
verify that right now. I think that's true.
Okay. Well, somewhere I went to the place where the Sound of Music took place
That's
while
Julie
visiting
Andrews.
Slovenia and stuff. Yeah. Anyways, it would have been
Yeah.
nice to see Venice, but I ended up seeing Austria, and I was in Slovenia, and we were staying at a therapeutic hotel. They had a lot of hot springs and stuff, and the pool was always like 30 degrees plus. It was nice. It was really nice, and there were a lot of Germans.
Oh yeah, I bet.
A lot of Germans like visiting and stuff. It was like it was a getaway place apparently for Germans.
Sweet.
It's a very interesting place. And this morning when I heard that Melania was Slovenian, I was like, oh, she is. Like, oh yeah, I guess that would make sense. But anyways, we're getting a little off track here.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's just a recap show. No pressure. So let's we wanted to talk about like the executive orders and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So this video, I hope, is one of them. Yeah, this is the little table they set up for him.
Just like in the Oval Office.
Yep. And this, I believe, this is the second session of signings he did.
That's right, because he was doing his first session in the Oval Office proper, and even spoke to the media while while he was doing them.
Well, I saw that, but I thought that was after this, wasn't it?
It was either before or after.
Presidential memoranda, and others.
Well, there you go. See how that's. I don't think they do this normally, right? This is
No,
this is the new thing, right?
this is day one, and he's doing stuff.
Right, because
Momentous stuff.
they don't usually make it this. They don't usually make a spectacle of it, right?
Nope.
From issuing any more regulations until we have full control of this, the government and this administration.
Wow.
Because technically this was the parade, the presidential parade.
Yes, correct.
Indoors, and this has never been done before.
It was okay. While you go through it, I'm going to look for the one at the Oval Office. Is interesting, very interesting.
Sure.
The next item, sir, is a
Let's go through this a bit.
excepting the military and a number of other excluded categories. Again, until full control of the government is achieved and we understand the objectives of government going forward.
Oval Office. If you can comment on anything, go right ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that one specifically.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
And that's true.
I don't think so.
That is very true.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately.
Yes.
This was problematic, actually, in a lot of in the years before, because I believe the Democrats had taken advantage of this quite a bit.
And nothing was getting done. And it's the same thing with our Canadian public service bureaucracy. Same
Thank you,
issue.
sir. Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis that has cost Americans so dearly.
Excellent.
What was that?
For the cost of living crisis, something to address the cost of living crisis. And I'm not
do a study or do something, or
I'm not sure if it was to do with energy or a combination of energy and inflation. Not sure.
So everything that Biden caused had made. Oh,
I missed that.
That's a good one.
What was
That's
that?
the Paris Treaty. The Paris Treaty.
That's great. So that's
Yeah.
Paris Climate Accord or whatever it's called to get
Yeah,
to
and
get the United States out of it, which is perfect because you can't be in that Paris Accord and ramp up your energy production. So that's great. That's a great move. And that's something we should do here in Canada, but our entire political class are a bunch of weakling leftist idiots, so we're not going to do it.
well, whenever I mention the Paris Accord and the United States step away from it, I know a bunch of people, my close friends, would groan and say, you don't care about the environment. And it's like the Paris Accord has nothing to do with the environment at all.
Nope.
Because if it did, then it would actually do something about basically what I felt it was doing to the Western world. It was basically clamping the Western world and allowing the rest of the world to do whatever the F they want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then on top of that, I believe America was footed a lot of that bill, right?
yeah, well, every international body or organization or agreement, the United States has just footed so much of the bill. And I agree with you 100% about that. Anything to do with the climate, any of these international agreements have essentially been a way to institute a wealth transfer scheme from the West to China, basically, and other massive polluters, and it hasn't done anything to stop pollution.
No, because like for every point that they gain on or win by according to the Paris Accord, for every achievement that the United States would think they have done, China would just double its production, and then basically that point would be erased because they weren't doing anything about China. They weren't doing anything about any, like Russia. They're not doing anything about Venezuela. I mean, they just, so I always felt the Paris Accord, even though it has good intentions, all it ever did was basically put us in this shitty economic situation.
Do you know what, Weathers? I really think that those quote unquote good intentions were actually, um, they were just lip service. It was really masking what we spoke about earlier, that it was about crippling the industrialized West.
Yeah,
I
but what's
really,
so sad is
I really do believe that.
how much of the people around us believe it's not so, and that
Yeah,
it's
well,
such a
that
big
is
mistake that we're stepping away, that America is stepping away from the Paris Accord.
that is
You know,
sad, and a lot of people don't realize that, Canada, we could technically, here in Canada, we could freeze in the dark. We could turn off all our lights and not use oil, gas, our vehicles. We could freeze in the dark, and it wouldn't matter as
no,
far as pollution is concerned. And a
no,
lot of people
and that's the
think
thing
about it.
about how I'd like to say the left, but it's not only the left. It's basically the globalists.
Yeah, the globalists of the left and the right, whatever stripe they
Exactly.
happen to be.
Yeah, it's all about controlling the West and
Yeah,
and
and
basically putting them in shackles.
yeah, and like the Europeans, like how much the energy costs that have gone up, like this in Europe and places like Germany and the United Kingdom, where the Ukraine war really exacerbated energy costs, and it's becoming increasingly apparent that the key to human happiness and human productivity and to lowering costs of living, it is to make affordable energy in the form of natural gas, for instance, affordable to the common person, and that's going to elevate standards of living, and it's also going to bring inflation down if you have cheaper energy. Like all the shipping costs and all that stuff. That's when shipping costs and taxes on top of it are out of control. Inflation starts to go like boop. So anyway,
Yeah, and on top of that, the environmentalists still think that somehow we can have ships that run on electricity. We can have cars that can run on electricity and go between Toronto and Montreal, no problems. Like, no,
no, not if we want to,
you
not if we
know,
want to cripple like the energy grid and all that stuff. Like it's just not feasible.
no, and they don't understand. Like, people think they understand how energy works. People think that well, I can power my, I here are the Teslas and they're great to ride around the city, but
Yeah,
the minute you go past the city limits, you're looking at the gauge, hoping that you're going to be able to get to somewhere where you can charge the stupid car.
yeah, and I
You know,
don't mind Elon Musk's like Teslas and electric vehicles, but as another golf club in the bag of options. You can't just decide that, this arbitrary date like 2025 or 2030, where it's like, okay, all gas powered vehicles are off the road now. Like that's absolutely insane.
when that
And
was one of the policies of the Biden government.
yeah,
California, I believe, had basically a mandate to remove all gas cars by a certain date, I believe.
yeah, and it's insane. Like you can't do that right away without crippling yourself economically and all the rest of it. So I like all these executive orders have been amazing.
Let's take a look a little more. We'll pull up the Oval Office one because I found that really interesting.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yes, sir.
You hear those guys? You hear the people?
I can
Isn't
hear
that
them.
amazing?
They're like, woo.
We're going to save over $1 trillion by withdrawing from that treaty.
Woo.
Yep. And take off the shackles and stop,
The
like,
next item, sir, is a letter that will be transmitted to the United Nations explaining that we are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Treaty.
Yay. Awesome.
and that's the other thing, too. In the end, who pays for this? It's usually the middle class.
Oh yeah.
Because most of the time, I don't know anybody on a middle class salary who can really afford a Tesla, if you ask me. Right?
Yeah, and the middle class has to foot the bill for all these damn taxes, right? We're being taxed to death. If you talk to people in the United Kingdom and here in Canada, um, we're being taxed to death with we have the carbon tax here, and
We're going. Yeah.
w-
Do we have
and
it now?
yeah,
Is it?
the carbon tax is like a fuel surcharge, isn't it? Like right on top of fuel costs.
Yes, it is. It is.
And
It
they
is.
and our government implemented that in a time when they should have been lowering taxes to get the economy back rolling again, but they didn't do it.
No.
It's retarded. Sorry, I shouldn't
No,
use that word, but
and
it's
most of the privileged people who look at this and say, well, we need to make the sacrifice. None of them ever make that sacrifice. I
no,
don't see them buying like cheaper cars. You see, like, what's his name? That the new
Mark Carney.
Mark Carney coming in on
Yeah,
that. What was that vehicle he was coming in on?
it was a
The
giant.
gas guzzler?
It wasn't it a Rolls Royce limousine? Wasn't that it?
It
It was.
was.
It was
It
really a.
was.
It was like a posh, like giant white limousine, and he's Mr. Climate Change, and that the hypocrisy is absolutely staggering.
Yeah,
You
and that
know?
idiot has no qualms about coming in on jets, driving in on like expensive cars, and he wants to tell the middle class here to fork up the money to pay for stuff like the Paris Accord,
Yeah.
fork up money to pay for stuff like the carbon tax, and then on top of that, the middle class has to pay for the usual things because they'll see things about the carbon tax in the groceries that they pay, right?
Yep.
In the fuel that they put on their cars that they drive every day to go to work.
It's so
It
inflationary.
it effing adds up, and the only one it really affects is really the middle class.
Yeah.
You know?
And the people um in the lower classes who are just scraping to get by,
Oh, they're just fucked.
it hurts them
They're just
too, right?
fucked.
Yeah.
They have no say in it, and they just what can they do? Most of it. Why do you think we have so much homeless now in Canada?
Yeah.
You know?
That is a huge thing. And the other thing is, you know, you've probably seen it, like food bank use is like through the roof in our country, which is really tragic because people are having a hard time feeding their families because of food costs are so high, right?
Right.
And
And then if you're lucky enough to have a salary above 100K, I mean, yeah, you'll see the dent in your pocket, but you won't be as affected as anybody in the middle class. I mean, 100K is slightly above middle class,
oh yeah,
you
because
know,
I think the average family income in Canada is probably what, in the middle, like 60 grand or whatever it is
60 grand.
nowadays.
That's
And
a good salary for one
yeah,
of the parents working.
and there've been so many videos. This is an aside, but there's been so many videos over the last couple years of people coming online and putting their video on Twitter or TikTok or wherever, and talking about how their salary used to pay for everything. The salary that they were getting or their hourly wage was starting to, but then all of a sudden during the Trudeau regime post COVID, they can't make ends meet. They can't do mortgage, food, schooling for their kids, clothes, and all the rest of it. And people start breaking down
Oh, my
and
wife and I
crying
live
about
on
that.
my when I had a salary and I was making that above 100K kind of deal. My wife and I are living on that salary, and it's not that we can't, make our bills or anything like that, but we don't have anything extra else.
Yeah,
We don't live in a glamorous place. I'm in a small apartment in the middle of Canada somewhere,
yeah,
and I'm not living in Manchester. I don't even have a car, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and I take the public transport, and that's what my salary is getting me. The only thing I don't get to see is like the struggle that I mean, whole families live on the equivalent of my salary,
hmm,
like two parents and two kids plus
yeah. Two people working.
two
Yeah,
people working. Well, the thing is, in the middle class, two people working will get basically my salary.
yeah,
If you're saying that it averages about 60, right? So that's
yeah.
120, right? And that's barely enough to feed four kids. Well, the four members of the family.
That's right.
If you're really one of these middle class, two children, two parent families and stuff. But I can see a lot of people struggling.
And and that's why these steps that like a lot of the energy based executive orders that President Trump has signed over the last 3 days have been very, very good moves from a populist perspective, because it's going to make energy costs come down, and there's going to be all these knock-on benefits for like families in terms of cost of living and like transportation, food, and all this stuff. Plus, it's going to get industry rolling, and
people
it's
will
going to be
spend again.
it's going to have an people will spend again. It's going to have this exponential effect on their economy. And what a breath of fresh air compared to our hostile regime here in Canada, who don't know what they're doing. And it's either they don't know what they're doing, or they're actively hostile and they hate the people that they govern, in my opinion.
Well, it's like it's like the plebs versus the proletariat, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like
let them eat cake.
Let them eat cake.
Let them eat shit. Basically, that's what I feel like it is in Canada right now.
Yeah,
I mean, you got Justin Trudeau sitting up on the hill with all his crony friends, dictating that we should spend this and we should care about the climate on our bill. I mean, that's the thing I that really gets me upset about the left. They have no problem spending your money.
That's right.
Because it's not in their backyard.
That's right. I've brought this up before, but there's that cartoon that depicting like Trudeau like throwing money around like this, and there's two like a couple standing there watching, and it's like he's throwing money around, and the wife says to the husband, "Yeah, but that's your wallet," right? He's like throwing all this cash around.
No,
that's what they do, and all the money that's gone out, like Trudeau and his regime has sent all this foreign aid out to all this stuff. And Trump in the last few days has taken so many steps, so many executive orders to curb like foreign aid to this and foreign aid to that, and da.
And it's all vanity spending for Trudeau.
Oh yeah.
He tells you it's because he cares and stuff. But it's all about him. It's all about his vanity and being able to say that he's the champion for the environment and he's the champion for
or the
Upper Canada.
Or look at me, I've spent these Upper Canada, like
I've spent your money.
I spent all this money
I've spent your money.
Yeah. And on all these international causes. Look at me, globalist friends. Look at me. Get me a seat on the Security Council. Come on. That's like
I'm slowly turning my middle class into a bunch of living batteries.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
and that's what they've been doing. And Trump is doing something so refreshing right now, as far as I'm concerned. It's really amazing what he's done in the past 72 hours.
So this is January 6th.
The Oval Office.
These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Excellent.
Full pardon.
And I've heard even this had recently some controversy. There were people lined up at a jail that had a good number of the January 6th hostages at all. And they weren't being expedient about releasing them. And today, I don't even know if any of them have been released yet.
They have, some of them have, but I saw that clip too. There was I remember a specific clip on Twitter X. I can't remember where it is, but it was like there was a police officer and he was in a confrontation, right? And these guys weren't getting released yet, but I'm sure the president's office put an enormous amount of pressure on them, because I saw one January 6er that just got out, and she was like, "Oh, this is my first McDonald's French fries since being released, like this morning or whenever it was."
And it's crazy.
And
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that over the course of this executive order signing, you have the press members of the press, or you can't see them, but they're right in front of them, and they start asking about how could you, and in other press conferences too, how could you release these January 6th people? And in this instance and the other instance, Donald Trump quite rightly says, but what about all the Antifa and BLM criminals who set Portland and Seattle and Minneapolis on fire, and
Oh yeah.
people were killed and they didn't get anything. They didn't, and he's quite right to make that counter argument.
Yeah, you
Because
mean this? Let me bring it up because we were going to bring this up on our first podcast. This image over here. 4 years ago. That sounds about right.
Yep.
Let's bring this up.
Yeah, 2020. Yeah, it's 5. It's going to be going on. Yeah, there we
This is
go.
the mostly peaceful protest. Notice all the fire in the background. Do you remember any fires during January 6th? I certainly don't. Shot in the back.
What you are seeing now, these images came and come in stark
But it was
contrast
mostly
to what we saw
It was
over
mostly
the
peaceful.
daytime hours
Totally.
in Kenosha, and
You know, and this is the hypocrisy right here. You know,
Yeah.
like nobody talks about this.
No.
No, and they think that January 6th was the most terrible thing that ever happened in the history. And they'll tell you, the Democrats will tell you in your face still to this day,
Yeah.
you know, that January 6th, it was
Yeah.
more than even 9/11.
And they're so smart, right? But when it comes to 2020 and the summer of 2020 and all this stuff,
Oh, you mean
all
the
of
summer
a
of love?
sudden, the summer of love, all of a sudden they have Alzheimer's. They didn't even see anything, right?
No, I
It
mean,
is
remember like Minnesota being decimated,
Yeah.
Portland having the, what is it, the Chaz, or
yeah,
Seattle,
the no-go, like the autonomous zones and
the
stuff like
autonomous
that.
zone where they tried to make a tomato garden in like, we'll
And then
just
they-
dump a bunch of dirt in the park on
Yeah.
top of these cardboards, and we're going to put a bunch of potted plants, and we're going to create our own utopia here.
And
You
then
know?
the Antifa people started fighting the BLM people, and it was absolute chaos, right?
Yeah.
And the establishmentarian press and political class refused to acknowledge that they even existed, that this even happened. But
No.
I love how
And,
Trump is doing this. Like he'll invoke that. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, and
6 commutations in there.
of course,
We're doing for the
it'll
next
probably
one.
come up very soon.
Nice to see you again.
They really start harassing him after a while about this stuff.
Because
Yeah.
knowing vast numbers of people, candidates, a very bad abuser also, vast numbers of people
Oh,
to come in.
What
and
did he talk about
fentanyl
here?
to
I
come
heard
in.
Canada.
Oh, so in this,
No, he didn't tell me. No. He did it. They released it during my speech. During my speech.
Oh, this is the
So all I could
pardons.
do was say, excuse me, I'd like
Biden's,
to come back
yeah.
and speak some more.
What happened there exactly? During his
Well,
speech?
Well, during Donald Trump's inaugural address, Biden essentially signed more pardons for his entire family. I think that's what he's
For what
referring.
crime? For what crime?
Well, but that's the thing. Like we don't right exactly. It's almost like and there's some controversy about what Biden did because it's like, well, they haven't been convicted yet, so how is this a legal
Standing.
pardon? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's almost like a get out of jail free card in such a case, but I don't think he can do that technically.
Well, here's the thing. I remember something about when Donald Trump was leaving his first term in office, the
Yeah.
pardons that he was doing. And I know somebody had brought up something along the lines, basically the same things. Well, you know, oh, that's it. That to be pardoned, there's sort of a sense that you have to be guilty. So there was a situation where they wanted him to be pardoned, but because he wasn't charged with a crime, he couldn't do the pardon.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And now here's Biden. Like, not even during like, I don't know, the days before, but during his speech, literally pardoned his whole family. Waited the very last minute that he could
Yeah,
do this.
like the
Wonder
11th,
why.
like the 11th hour. We got to rush this through. The other one was Anthony Fauci. I'm not sure if Anthony
Yes,
Fauci was included in that cluster of pardons,
but
and
he
it
was
was and
pardoned.
it was backdated to 2014, and so it raises all sorts of issues. Well, so
What were you
what
doing
did
in
you do?
2014?
You haven't been charged with anything. Were you doing gain of function research all the way back then? Were you? I'm just asking questions, right? And the entire right-wing internet that's hyper fixated on Anthony Fauci, which they should be, are asking those questions too.
The man is like the modern day Dr. Mengele.
Yeah.
Basically, and COVID wasn't his first deal either, right?
No.
AIDS
AIDS.
was
Yeah. That.
probably the first big one that he did,
Yeah. He's
and
involved.
he's involved with that. And I think to the point where I think he was. What was the deal with AIDS?
Well, wasn't it wasn't it in the 90s all of a sudden? Was it focused on California, like the gay community in California? Was that how it? Wasn't he involved in that
something
somehow?
about something about AIDS, and that somehow he had mishandled the whole. When AIDS was a big thing, right? Because
Hmm.
AIDS is like has kind of drifted off somewhere. Nobody talks about AIDS anymore. You know, even though very recently, I think even like last year, I read somewhere where they actually might have found the cure for AIDS, but nobody's talked about that. you know,
Right.
no,
And
because like it's gone. It's in the past. Everyone, for anybody really cares, it's the gay disease still.
yeah, and
You know,
and the implication of, it's not very good business to cure diseases. It's just good to sort of alleviate them somewhat. as far
yeah,
as far as these gigantic rapacious big pharma companies are concerned. There's no money in curing things. It's good to have people on a leash while they take your medication for 5 decades or whatever.
well, that's basically what they're doing about the transgender too. I
Yep.
mean, they get them to basically believe that they can actually change their gender through these
That's true.
operations.
It,
And
and that's a good point to make, because there's this whole transgender industrial complex that's there to support it in terms of operations, in terms of pharmaceuticals and all this stuff, right?
yeah, but
Like there's big
they don't make the money
monsters.
on and this is the thing, they don't make the money on the operation. They make money on the aftercare.
But I think a lot of these people, but I think it's part of the industry is like all the medical stuff up front and going forward. Like it's part of the same. It is part of the industry, right? Like all the
Yeah.
specialists and all the techniques and stuff like that. And I think it's evil personally. It's really, there's less than 1% of people on the planet have are truly transgender. The rest of it is like this malevolent push.
Well,
Um,
here's something interesting actually, and I actually caught it on, I believe. Wait, hang on. Where did I think it's this where I caught it on. It's basically Timcast.
oh yeah.
Let me get it to the right place. Hang on. And yeah, I was
I would.
watching this last night. Is it this one? No, this is the wrong one.
Was it the
Pretty
Silk
nice
Road
place.
founder? Like,
No, this is actually this is a Polish
yeah,
politician.
yeah. From
And
anyway.
go ahead.
No. Like I just like the
Oh, maybe
tagline
it
is
was this
about
one.
the Silk Road founder, but he had this panel of guests, including this fellow, um, from Poland, EU member of parliament, right? And he had this guy from the UK.
Well, he's from the Lotus Eaters podcast.
Yeah,
This guy. Yeah.
isn't he British?
Yeah. Do you know who Sargon of Akkad is?
Yes, I do.
Well, he's basically his co-host.
Okay. 'Cause
And
I remember.
Podcast of the Lotus Eaters is Sargon of Akkad's new endeavor.
Okay.
Basically, he started a media company called Podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and there's content being generated around them that I believe is mostly pro-conservative.
Yes, because like he's involved with Hershey Alley, isn't he? Like he writes for
Yes.
her outlet, and I like her as she was like a vocal opponent of radical Islam in the Netherlands, even 10 years ago or more, because she was involved with a Dutch filmmaker at that time named, I think, was it Van Gogh, who was assassinated by Muslim zealots in the Netherlands, and she started to bring attention to the problem of Muslim immigration in the Netherlands and by extension the West. But she was vilified at that time because the climate was more hostile than it is now. It's still so hostile, but
well, this
yeah.
woman over here during the podcast had actually, I'm trying to find it, and I probably should have. Oh, that's it. I think this is it.
I think his name was Theo van Gogh. Was the guy, the director, the Dutch director that was assassinated?
This woman is
the redheaded
forgot her name.
libertarian. Isn't she the
Yes,
redheaded
that's her.
libertarian? Yeah.
She is. Yeah, that's her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not getting.
She brought up some statistics. You're not hearing it?
I wasn't getting any audio from her.
You hear it now?
No.
Oh wait. You can't hear that? Oh wait.
I can't.
Browser has lost connection to your screen audio. Try sharing the screen again. Okay, hang on. I have to stop screen and present, and then share screen. And yeah, it's Silk Road one. Share. Technical difficulties.
Oh, that's okay.
To die for this country, a country
Here
that.
Yep.
I don't. So we have this tweet. And Wokeness tweeted, the State Department issues a one flag policy. American flags can be flown, nothing else.
She
did not need to serve in the military to have a right to bear arms. And they were concerned that by leaving that in, it could be
or demoralized. They're not taking for primarily military age men in our country. They don't love our country. And I mean, I honestly don't blame them the way that they're treated. And
I blame TikTok.
Sorry, I can't find it. But she had brought up some statistics regarding the transgender and
suicide.
Basically, the suicide rates. How much of these operations don't ever really succeed. And the one interesting thing that she did bring up too is that something along the lines that had they not intervened and done their operations, a good percentage of, I think 80% of males claiming to be transgendered usually grow out of it, you know? So what she brought up was that, so that means that in the end, 80% of males who claim to be transgendered are usually over it because of puberty. And so the problem with, going for this movement where now kids can choose their gender is that, well, if it's because that they just literally have to go through puberty to be normal, well, the first thing that they do, what do? They take, they take blockers. They take hormone blockers, right? Puberty blockers.
Yeah.
That's essentially the medicine that they take, so they block puberty. And so
it's so destructive. It's so destructive, and it's
not reversible. They like to make you think it's reversible. There's none of this stuff is ever reversible. I know transgender people and all that.
Yeah.
And like I get that. I get the whole thing about, they feel at a loss with their body and stuff, but a lot of these feelings might actually be normal. And basically you just have to live through it, and no intervention is ever really required. But the problem is that if all of a sudden kids can take these puberty blockers, we'll never know. you know, and so they go on this road where they take the puberty blockers, they become transgendered, right? And then they get to a point where either they're still not satisfied, they're dependent on aftercare, basically, because some of them have to do things like take more medicine, more hormone blockers. Some of them go through the operations, have whatever genitalia removed or butchered, essentially, and have to do things like dilate holes in their body that don't belong there.
I know, it's just horrific. It's an absolute it's horrifying. And I think it is destructive. I think it's a deliberate attack on young people at the most vulnerable point in their lives. And with the solution of they offer the solution of everything will be alleviated in your life. You'll be so happy when you transition to another biological sex, like thanks to surgeries. And it's a lie, and they're doing it to destroy our young people. And I think there's a lot of profit to be had, which we just talked about. And
Well, yeah, because
another
the
thing I was
aftercare, they
yeah,
make money on the aftercare.
the aftercare and the drugs. And I my buddies and I, we watched Matt Walsh's documentary / movie called "What Is a Woman." It was
Oh yes,
actually
yeah,
it was actually really good in terms of um, just illustrating just how morally imbecilic and evil these people are that are pushing this. And I remember one of the people he had on as like an interview was a transgendered person, and he was originally male, and he transitioned to being a female, and he was very frank about how his life was essentially ruined, and he had been on medication since his surgery, and he's had all these subsequent surgeries. He's in pain and all this stuff, and he was
Darren, I don't know,
honest about it.
I don't know how anybody could be happy if they're in constant pain,
No, I know.
or if they constantly have to maintain a hole open of all things.
Yeah.
You know, that's just horrible.
And
You know,
I think it's a deliberate attack on people's
and here's the crazy
identity.
part. You know, here's the crazy part about this transgender genitalia. You know, you can never reproduce with these genitalia.
Nope.
You can never have a child in that hole you put in yourself.
No.
And no, I even though there's like really disgusting videos online about men trying to breastfeed their children
It's horrific, really.
by
And
taking all this like, you know, medicine, you know, injecting their bodies so that they can actually grow mammaries, you know, not even breast mammaries. And what's the quality of the milk that comes out of that?
and it's absolute, like, horrible. It's horrible stuff. And there's this insidious reasons behind it, like the stated reasons. Like, they always couch these things in these moral universal terms to make it hard for people to present these counter arguments. Like, you don't want to be against letting people be who they truly are, do you? But there's evil behind it, trying to. And it's been terrible as far as breaking up families. It's been so divisive for the nuclear family unit, especially when you have someone who's been indoctrinated in our terrible education system and comes home and says, I'm actually a girl, or I'm actually a boy. And it's been ripping families apart. And it's been used as a justification on behalf of our absolutely bankrupt education and political class to decide that they can, from on high, take children away from their families. That's another thing. And I think that's a deliberate, calculated tactic to break up families and weaken the family structure, because a weakened nuclear family structure in the culture, that weakens people who would otherwise protest against this hostile elite that governs us.
Well,
I think that's why they're doing it.
and of course the overarching thing is like who would ever think to break up the family unit?
People that want to
Communists.
stay, people that communists, exactly, communists, and they're just like our. I think our hostile political elites are communist,
They are.
and they like a weakened populace, and that's part of it. They're using leftist identity politics against their own people, and I think that's what it's about. Plus all the money we've talked about, right?
It's criminal.
It's terrible.
And it's criminal. And they've actually, here in Canada, I just feel they've led the population to think that they're doing this out of good intentions.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's
of course,
they couch it in those terms. They always couch it in those terms, but it's not what the heart and core is about. It's about taking people and just sundering their identities.
so that they are dependent on the state.
Yep, that's a big
essentially.
part
And
of it.
that's what communism really is about. You know,
Yep.
being able to control a population so that they're dependent on the state and that they look to the state for everything.
It's another
And of course,
yeah.
Go ahead. What
No,
were you saying?
no, I agree with you. Like it's another managerial state project. You could have all these
people are
bureaucrats
people are easy to control when they're dependent on you.
Yeah.
When they depend on you from everything from food to what you do for work, that's communism.
and it's been so divisive. Like it's caused chaos in our education system. Absolute
We have no
chaos.
education system anymore. I mean,
Well, whatever's left of it, yeah. Exactly. I know.
It's just like universities and education institutions have basically become the training grounds for activists.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like whatever happened to actually telling people facts and teaching them mathematics, grammar, and all the rest of it. But no,
well, a lot of them come out of the universities useless, you know, and they have really bad work ethics and stuff. And, you know, everything is like really self-centered and selfish and you know, everything. They have a really weird, I mean, I find the youth have a really weird concept of adulthood, you know?
yeah, and the good thing is, though, Mike, the good thing is that a lot of these young people who have rejected this leftist woke transgender ethos or whatever you want to call it, people like Barron Trump are very, very right wing. They're more and that's and like imagine if we go back to the beginning of our show where Donald Trump is saying how profoundly they won the youth vote, the Republicans. That was huge, right? So it just goes to show that the youth are rejecting this leftist absolute bile that's being thrown at them every day.
Yeah, and the majority of the
that's good. That's such a good. That's such an encouraging.
I believe they're what are they called? Generation Z.
Z, yeah.
Z, yes.
Z, or Z in the States, Z here. Yeah.
Specifically males have become more conservative because of it.
And
because they're growing up in a world where they're finding it even more tough being male.
Exactly. And the girls too, right? Because because they have to live in this post-national state that we call Canada, or where they don't feel at home in their own country and they're subjected to all these forces, and a lot of them are rejecting it because it's not a good place to be.
Well, it doesn't promote.
They have to live in
it. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of young men want families and want to get married and have children and have and go back to being able to like work for a living.
That's
honestly.
Right. Yeah.
Stuff and none of this like living off the system. You know, none of the generations before who are just based like a lot of millennials essentially.
Yeah.
Are sorry to insult your generation. I believe that's your generation, right?
Oh, that's okay.
Sorry, but a lot of millennials are really useless, you know, and very dependent and have, sorry to rag on this again, or rag on this again.
No,
Like,
no, it's okay.
unable to basically control their own destinies.
Yeah, it's
really.
like, and I think, yeah, like that's where self-worth comes from. I remember watching a thing that Jordan Peterson did when he was still at the University of Toronto. He was talking about how during the course of his lecture tours, he likes to like constantly be scanning his audience. And one of the things that he said got a profound reaction from the young men in the audience, and it was profoundly striking all the time, was the sense that people need responsibility, like especially the young men. Like they want to be able to, yeah, have a job, have a family, and have a purpose in life. And that's true. Like people need a sense of purpose every day. They have to get up and they have to go to their job, whatever it happens to be.
Even biologically, I mean, we have an
Yeah.
endorphin, I believe, called one of the endorphins. I can't remember, but basically, whenever there's something in your brain that rewards you with euphoria when you accomplish stuff.
Yeah, like is it
You know,
dopamine or
it's one
dopamine
of
or
those.
serotonin?
Oxycontin or one of
Oh yeah,
those.
you're thinking. You might
Yeah,
be thinking of oxytocin, which is like the
yeah,
love neurotransmitter.
yeah,
Where, yeah,
yeah.
it's
It that fires off when you do one of two things: accomplish stuff and transfer knowledge.
yeah,
You know, your brain is rewarding you for propagating the species. Really,
yeah, and
you
working
know.
towards that. Even these peripheral things that may not be directly related are related to that. And
Exactly.
yeah, we have to like imbue our young people, our young men with with purpose in order for them to have hope in life again.
And
And
I think,
yeah,
well, just we're getting to we're a little past the hour that we wanted to
oh
go.
yeah,
So
it's
so
okay.
let's actually close it off with basically that's in the past 2 days. I mean, especially watching like the executive orders being signed off and all that, and the
It's
direction,
it's been
the
amazing.
surprising direction and get up and go that Trump is doing. Like he didn't sit on his ass, and
No,
like from the day that he was like minutes, hours within his inauguration, he's off signing stuff and things
yeah,
are being done.
and all
You
the
know,
like it was what was it? It was like the first day, the day of his inauguration. Didn't he sign? Was it 200 or like he almost hit
200.
a
I
200
believe it was
mark?
200. Yeah.
And since that time, in all of these executive orders, he's hit so many amazingly key things. Like he declared an emergency at this southern border about immigration, illegal immigration coming from
Yep.
southern border. And declaring an emergency, he opens up all these options in terms of being able to deploy National Guard.
Well, he declared the cartels now as terrorists.
Terrorist organizations, which gives, I would imagine, that gives authorities more tools in order to deal with these guys, right, who are trafficking people, including children, and also fentanyl is coming in like crazy, so it's going to address the drug crisis. He also signed an executive order, for instance, about he declared there to be an energy emergency in the country, which is going to give American companies and the government more power in terms of like getting industry ramped up for oil and gas and all this stuff. And that's really good. Oh yeah, it's a lot of DEI stuff. I mean,
Removed from the government.
yeah, I mean, that one thing he's repealed that executive order that President Johnson signed in 1965 about affirmative action, right? Which is
Yep.
essentially 1965's version of a DEI initiative, which was like, we have to
And
have.
you know how I know about affirmative action? Back in the 80s, it was actually a topic of an episode of Different Strokes. I don't know if
Oh,
you
cool,
remember that
cool.
episode.
Oh, that's cool.
You know, yeah.
And
Um,
he's hitting these
go on.
populist. He's hitting all these populist things, and it's been amazing what he's done already. Like And that's just the tip of the iceberg, really.
Yeah, and on top of other things, of course, there's the to start removing all the illegal immigrants. I believe there's actually an event or some operation being done in Chicago, and what's his name, Holman, who's now the new border czar.
Yeah, Tom Holman.
Tom Holman. This guy.
Because Chicago is a sanctuary city,
right?
And I saw some footage today of ICE operations taking place. Oh yeah, there he is, right there. Yeah,
ICE deportation operations have started as of today in
yeah.
Chicago.
And just incidentally, Mike, I saw some footage on Twitter X of
Did you?
of people running, like illegal immigrants who are, like those workers that come across the border, and they had their reflective vests on, and they were running because ICE was doing an operation like right nearby, and that was pretty cool.
I believe you pulled this up, right?
Oh
the
yeah,
New York Post one.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yep.
308 illegal immigrants, including attempted, but
that's right.
Advertising.
And I think they've started off, these ICE operations have started off where they're targeting people that they know to have already committed crimes. So they're going after these murderers and these child abusers.
Why aren't these murderers in some kind of prison and left like freely running around in cities like Chicago again?
Yeah, in New York and all over the place. And
no, they've been accused of murder, and yet they're still running around.
Yeah.
Like, people don't understand that. It's like, it's not like I bet you, like, even the murder of Laken Riley has been incarcerated, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole bunch of these people still running around, even though they have murdered.
There's thousands of them, thousands.
All because of the Biden catch and release shit.
It's unreal. And that's another thing to point out about the Trump presidency 2016, the Trump presidency 2024. He is indispensable in terms of getting that message out there that illegal immigration, unfettered illegal immigration in particular, has caused terrible, terrible crimes, including child molestation, murders, even like he had some crazy numbers even about illegal immigrants on the roadways of the United States, killing in upwards of like 200,000 people because of road accidents a year. And that was just based on that metric of road accidents, let alone murders and shootings and all this other stuff, right? So this is really cool that he's done this already.
Well, they needed to, because like, this is ridiculous that you let criminals run around your city, known criminals.
And
this is not even the fact that they're illegal immigrants, although they like confusing it with the legal immigrants. So all the legal immigrants get all scared, and like my parents, who are landed immigrants and now complete citizens, they get confused with, like, whenever they talk about closing the border to illegal immigration.
We're talking about
they're closing it right now because it totally is fucked up. So he basically had to shut down the whole border, right? And then basically sort it all out. Of course, there's now not going to be any immigration until they sort the whole crap out.
And I think he even signed an executive order about that Venezuelan gang, the Tren de Argua gang that took over the apartment complexes in Colorado, and they're bad dudes, right?
Oh yeah. And they just basically let them, and it's like no one, like, because once again, like, the government, at least the previous one in America, in the United States, have led a lot of the public to believe, and really good people who led them to believe that these illegal immigrants are one and the same with immigrants.
That's right.
They love confusing people on that. And it's like, no, these are people who absolutely do not belong here. And have no care about the populace, about the country that they're in. You know, they have no intention of contributing the country that they've been let into. They just basically want to come in for the free stuff and rape whatever they can.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's you're right about that. Like that's a conflation that the Democrats and the liberals and the NDP here have done. They've conflated illegal criminals who get into our countries illegally and law-abiding migrants who do everything right to get in. They've conflated that on purpose. And Trump is saying no. There's a difference between them, right?
Yep.
Oh, the other thing, he even specifically mentioned one of the incidents where the Tren de Aragua Venezuelan gang took over that apartment complex in Colorado. One of the tenants called the police. The gang members found out and they chopped his fingers off. And Trump mentioned that particular case.
Oh, that's awful. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but yeah.
No, but it's like without him, like he's been indispensable in bringing these things to like the national level, more so than anybody else I've ever seen in my life. Like even like 2015, 2016, he was talking about the cartels coming up into Texas, Arizona, chopping people's heads off, hanging them from bridges, because he was reading like Breitbart and other sources, right?
Yeah, and they do these things, you know.
They do.
These are animals, and
yeah,
and of course they'll conflate that, you know, and they'll try to take these words and try to tell you or try to tell like the unknowing populace that no, he means like all you Haitians who came here or all you people who went through the legal routes of coming into any country and have every intention of contributing to the country.
and
You know,
have a
they
family
always
and have a job and all that stuff.
and contribute to the society and stuff. But these are animals, like not the immigrants. These are the brutal gangs of places like Venezuela. He ain't kidding when Venezuela, as soon as Biden did that come to the country, all these southern countries, South American countries, basically opened their jails.
They did, yes.
And told them to go north.
Yeah.
You know?
And you have an overwhelming amount of military-age men that have come into the country. You also see that, remember, like 2015, circa 2015, German Chancellor Angela Merkel saying, you know, come to Germany, right? And you had this huge influx of people from the Middle East and Africa that have caused like amazing amount of damage in Germany, and social cohesion is getting torn apart and it's costing a fortune, and that problem is ongoing. Yeah, Germany is in dire straits as well, just like Britain, just like Canada, just like France is another one where you have like if someone in those arrondissements is killed and happens to be from Algeria or wherever, there's like riots for days and the police have to go enforce to these no-go zones.
Yeah, and I've seen some of those riots, you know.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty bad back last year, I believe. I can't remember when last year, but I remember people taking down things like street lamps and rioting. People all forget all that stuff. You know, it's like no, it's the you know, it's because we're persecuting them. It's like no.
It's
no, they're there and they don't really care about the country they're in, and they're there basically to take all the free stuff.
And it's like you don't have that's an elementary thing about what we used to call a nation state or a country. You have to, the number one job of a government is to secure its own borders, and the globalists think no, everybody should open their borders and allow this completely different group of people to come in, like in these huge numbers that we can't handle. And it's a failed experiment
leech off of people and have the middle class pay for it all, and you know, just put up with it and be basically erased from any influence to the government, because you know, like a lot of these illegal immigrants that come from the south and maybe even from the north have been moved to places specifically to dilute the vote power of
Yeah.
a specific type of people,
Yeah.
mostly conservatives.
Yes.
Conservative towns, poor towns, who are very heavily conservative, were being flooded with these illegal immigrants
Like
in the
Springfield,
hopes that
Ohio, for instance.
they would change the voting.
Yep. That's undoubtedly true. Like Springfield, Ohio, that we talked about last time.
Yep.
Is a great
Yep.
example.
And of course, the left will confuse it again with like the legal immigrants with the majority illegal immigrants who now are taking up resources of the town in a town that was already poor and probably even relying on those resources. They've been pushed out.
Yeah.
And
like small like villages in Germany, like where 1,500 people and they drop like 2,000 migrants on them, or like places in Minnesota where Minnesota, I think Minneapolis, they under the Obama administration, they dropped a large number of Somalian immigrants in there that has really transformed the political and demographic landscape of places.
They have no intention of ever contributing back to the country that they're in.
No.
Neither do they have a love of any of the people who live there. They're just basically taking what they can.
Yeah, and it's not a sustainable situation. Like, and the good thing here is like Trump has taken really tangible steps. It's going to be a fight going forward, but he's taken tangible steps to get the situation in the United States under control, and it's so good to see. It's beginning to look like Trump is the only leader right now in the West, aside from maybe the fellow in Hungary, Orban, I think his name is, who is sort of he's more of a nationalist, right?
Or the Afuera dude. Where's that?
Which one is that?
That's Millie. Not Millie.
Oh yeah.
Javier Milei.
The guy with the chainsaw guy.
Yeah, the chainsaw.
Yeah.
What country was that? That's Argentina, isn't it?
Yeah, he's Argentina. He's got the long hair.
Argentina. Yeah, that dude.
He's cutting government and stuff like that. And also, I'm not sure to what extent in Italy Meloni is starting to sound more like a bit of a nationalist, like she was at first and then she wasn't and now she is again. Poland, I mean, they have their issues, but like
Poland is the one the Tim Pool, the guy who came up on Tim Pool, that Polish guy, the Polish he's apparently a politician who was part of the European Union
Parliament. He's part of the EU Parliament, right?
Yes. And his story is basically his father had suffered under the occupation of Russia.
So he knows what communism is about.
He was there specifically to tell people, what communism was about.
Yeah.
And he's there to make people not forget it.
And that's the thing. A lot of these people, Europeans who lived or had parents who lived under the Iron Curtain, they know, or they heard about it or experienced it themselves. They know what communism means. And they know the signs when they come to places like Canada or Britain or even the United States, and they see these similar things happening, and it's a force that they don't like, and they want to warn us, don't go down that road, and it's important to listen to those people. I think.
Yeah. Anyhow, we're actually at 1:30, so I think we really should close the show now. Our 3.5 show. We don't have a topic for next week, but I'm sure we'll come up with one, and I'm sure we're going to start. Hopefully, we'll start hearing something about Canada, because it's right now been shut down.
Yeah, that's right.
Our government is still shut down.
It is.
I believe Polyev has. There was. I'd seen somebody had posted it on Facebook about the letter he wrote about saying, like, look, Trump is doing these tariffs, and we're not able to do anything about it. I believe there was a letter
Yeah,
to the Governor General or something like that, asking to reopen Parliament or something like that.
yeah, and I don't think it's, and to his credit, he did that, but I think it's not going to happen. The Liberals are just going to keep everything shut down, and they're going to do their leadership race. And they've come out in the last few days and said that they're going to impose retaliatory tariffs on Trump if.
Yeah, like that's going to do anything.
And it's ridiculous.
It's like, what do
Absolutely.
you? This is the United States of America. What do you think you can like hold from them that they're going to like shake in their boots about? Like
Well,
this is.
do you know what? Do you know what? There's do you know what? They should be shaking in their boots because Doug Ford threatened to pull all the Jack Daniels from LCBO this week.
Oh my God, we're doomed now.
I know.
You Ontarians are screwed, man.
Yeah, it's so funny. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. Like the only our Canada's political class, almost to a person, with a few notable exceptions, like Daniel Smith, whom I like, the Premier of Alberta, Pierre Poilievre himself,
Right.
and a few other ones. But the rest of them are complete weaklings who are
globalist,
and they're running scared, and they don't know what they're doing. And it's
no, they're
pathetic.
complete idiots.
Yeah, it's sad.
Our Minister of Finance was Tweak Freeland. I mean,
yeah,
seriously, it's like
and
how anybody would think that she actually knows anything about finance is.
and
I know engineers who could probably deal with the finances better than her.
yeah, for sure. And I blame a lot of this on Freeland and Trudeau and their disastrous dealings with Trump in his previous administration. But and now,
well, we'll get into it eventually. Hopefully by March, I believe, is the deadline for the Liberals to actually come up with a leader. And then at that point, you told me that at that point they pretty much can just wait till October for the election.
I think
and
that's
basically run the country with an unelected prime minister.
Yeah, and I think
and I believe that's what happened with what's her name?
Kim Campbell.
Kim Campbell. Isn't that what happened to her?
Yeah, I think that's what happened because Brian Mulroney stepped down, and then she was like the interim leader, right? And then they had the election, and she got destroyed.
Right, and they
she
got
was
reduced to basically the size of a four-door car.
Yeah, like a smart car. I think didn't they have like 2 seats or 4 seats or something?
Four.
It's something
4
crazy.
seats.
It was something
Yeah,
crazy.
they had 4 seats in the end. They were so well, and this was the conservative government. I don't know. Was it Mulroney is PC, right?
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Okay. We'll have to talk about like what he did to basically do that to the Conservative Party and bring on this basically decades of liberals.
I think he was free trade, but also
yes, he failed on the free trade.
But then GST and and all the other stuff. Like I thought, didn't he bring in the GST at that time? Anyway,
yes, he did.
We can revisit that, but
we should. We probably should.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I think we need to. I mean, I'm not a pro on Canadian politics before this year, really.
We could do some
it'd be good. It'd be good to maybe do a couple of decades history of how the hell we got here in Canada.
Yeah,
so something to think about.
That would be like our special. That would be like the Common Nonsense special broadcast.
Crash course in Canadian politics.
Yeah, in 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and then we'll bring up the clock. Anyways,
yeah,
that's for next time.
That would be
for
fun.
Next time and another time. But we'll be back next Wednesday, Hump Day at 4:20 at our usual slot and time. And the show will be going up on Facebook. Oh yeah, let's see the other thing I want to. The show, you can catch the show on Facebook if you know me, on X under Hand of Infinity. You can see at the bottom of our screen over there. And of course, our YouTube channel, The Common Nonsense YTC. And I've moved or I've also uploaded the shows to Rumble, and so we now have a the Common Nonsense podcast channel.
Awesome.
And that will come up on our background eventually, or I'll put it in our credits if you want to catch us on Rumble instead of YouTube, because YouTube,
Yeah.
YouTube has its own ideas about freedom of speech. So I'm thinking that eventually would probably be better if we made Rumble our home. So it's in the works, and we're slowly getting there. And and actually, here's the other thing too. We seem to be catching a lot of people on Rumble,
awesome.
compared to YouTube. So it might be actually something we'll think about eventually.
Cool.
So,
and I see I see my friend Honeybee was watching live today. Hi, Honeybee.
Oh, nice. Hey, hey, Mike's friend or Mike Rabel's friend.
And I also have a new X Twitter. Finally.
Oh yes. And what is it?
It took me a long time to get it, but it's at microwave TCN, and
Nice.
that's where I am on Twitter X. So, and I only follow two people: Elon Musk and Weathers.
Oh,
basically.
Thanks. But yeah, we'll get your Twitter handle there next episode and all that.
Yeah. Awesome.
Any parting thoughts before we shut the show down?
Oh, just thank you again. That was really fun. And there'll be so much more to cover going forward. And it's an exciting time to be alive and be a podcasters.
Especially about politics and the West world and everything we do here.
Exactly.
Yes, it is a very interesting time. So glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
And we'll be back to do more for sure.
Awesome.
So once again, I'm Weathers.
I'm Microwavable. See you later,
Cheers.
everybody.
Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.
Laters, everyone.